Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Welcome to episode 166 of Sports Management Podcast. Today's guest is Nate Liberman, the VP of Sports at Tixr, a company that partners with event creators to go beyond ticketing. We spoke about the ticketing industry, the shift in attention span, why data is only as good as the action you can take against it, Nate's career journey, and much more. Nate Liberman, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Marcus. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. It's great to have you on the show. So you are the VP of Sports at Tixr, and a ticketing company that goes beyond the ticketing. So can you tell us a little bit about your role and about Tixr?
Sure. So as the VP of Sports, my role is to really lead the sports vertical. And Tixr as a company's, the roots of the business has been in the music, nightlife, festival, pop culture world. And about 2.5 years ago, when I joined, we took it upon ourselves to enter into the sports market in a bigger way. And our, as you mentioned, the beyond ticketing, a big part of our ethos is helping our clients not only sell their tickets, but really any part of the live entertainment experience in an online e-commerce environment. So it's a bunch of my job is business development, meeting with sports properties and kind of introducing them to Tixr, because we are a new entrant into the space, but also a lot of opportunity for me to advise on product and kind of the design of the product going forward as we enter into a different vertical that has different use cases and needs and requirements.
Interesting. So I read that you do some work on business development, as you mentioned here on Tixr. So what is it that you give your insight about, and from what background?
Yeah. So, my background has been on the professional sports side. So I've worked prior to joining Tixr, I spent about 20 years working for professional sports properties here in North America. And over that time, I've gotten a lot of really great relationships in the industry. So really going back in time, 2.5 years ago, when we started the sports practice, a lot of the first year of introducing Tixr was listening to my peers in the industry and a better understanding what their needs are and what their requirements are. And at the same time, we started to bring forward and bring online some early adopters into the product. And so most of those efforts were in, touring sports, where we had a really known product market fit. And then as we kind of brought those clients on, we also started to bring forward some, early adopters in the professional sports world that were giving us really positive feedback on how to best deliver the experience. And then ultimately, a big part of that relationship is what we term a partnership in building functionality and creating solutions that help drive their business forward, and listening and working collaboratively versus just giving them a product and saying, this is what you get and just deal with it. We're always listening and trying to iterate and innovate the product to make it better and better over time. Again, a core part of my job is outreach, meeting with sports properties and finding new clients for Tixr. And, it's a big part of the future of the sports business.
Definitely. You're saying looking for new customers, or we're looking, is it teams, leagues? Who is a regular customer for Tixr?
So we've done early days, we did a lot of outreach to find out where their opportunities were. The ticketing is a very legacy business. There's a lot of long-standing operators that have used the similar product over time. And so we had to find two things. We had to find people that were looking and strategically thinking 3 to 5 years out. And also we did a lot of work with more nuanced, new burgeoning entrepreneurial sports properties. So the example I'd use is professional pickleball. So pickleball was a new sport, as a professional sport, probably about 3 years ago. We actually signed both Professional Pickleball Association and Major League Pickleball. They didn't have a playbook, right? They were able to come at this with a fresh approach, and have had a tremendous amount of success in scaling their business. And we've been a part of that journey for them here in North America. So we work with touring sports properties like professional pickleball, golf events, tennis, motorsports. So that's probably where the vast majority of our businesses started. But we are working with teams for the most part. We have partnerships with leagues, but generally speaking, the leagues don't really control the primary ticketing here in North America. It's driven by the individual teams, and they have the decision-making authority on a local level to decide on what kind of solution they want to offer. Generally speaking, what you see with the league partnerships is it's generally tied into the secondary marketplace here in North America. And so we're not as focused on that at this point in time in our evolution.
I understand that. So, I mean, the ticketing is a very interesting industry in general. And of course, the pricing and how that fluctuates, and you want to make as much money as possible, but you also want to fill capacity. You don't want to dump the price, so you irritate the season ticket holders. It's a complex industry.
Very complex. And, I think that's one of the things that gets us most excited, because with new technology, we have a lot more capabilities of around creating solutions that solve potentially for some of those challenges, right? Like the idea that you don't want to lower your price to a certain level because you don't want to upset your season ticket holders makes a ton of sense. But there might be ways to create opportunities to deliver access to your tickets in a way that doesn't disrupt that. And we're constantly, that's a big part of our day-to-day job, is like thinking about how to build the product better. I mean, we're still very early in a lot of these conversations of new technology and new solutions, but generally speaking, what you've seen in the ticketing world in North America is most of the technology that looks to solve these challenges are not built by the primary ticketing companies themselves. They're built by solutions providers that maybe somebody was a frustrated operator and they go out and found their own, startup ticketing bolt-on solution that again alleviates these or opens up these opportunities. So Tixr thinks that as a primary ticketing company, it's our job to deliver these solutions and not rely on third parties to build it and then just integrate with us.
So I read on the website, it says that you're empowering clients to go beyond ticketing and sell more diversely. So, I mean, if we can make like an example, when you're talking to a team, how does this relationship look like? What information are you asking from them? What are you providing the team with in order to sell more and more diversely?
Yeah. So I think the first and foremost, the idea is let's look at your entire live event, all the different things you're offering fans. And some of those things are really, require, somebody to like try on a t-shirt or a hat to get the size right. But some fans in that journey, they already know what their size is. They know what type of hat that they want, and they know what will effectively fit them. And so when we're looking at the fan experience holistically, we look at all the touch points that the fan has commercially with you, and the goal is to bring as much of that into the online experience when the credit card's out, right? The fan has made a decision that they want to come to a live event. They're excited about it. Historically, ticketing, that's where it stops, right? You bought your ticket, you delivered the ticket, and then the ticketing company's kind of wiping their hands of the relationship with the fan. But this is generally the first commercial touch point you have with the vast majority of your consumers. And so it's our job to help bring forward other things. It can be merchandise and food and beverage and things of that nature. It can be hospitality. It can be, experiences. So the reality is teams especially are trying to become more sophisticated when it comes to offering more to the event experience than just a seat in their stadium. And we want to be able to empower them to deliver that in a seamless online way that reduces the friction for the fan once they show up to the actual event. And we've got some really great use cases and tremendous stories around how we've been able to do this. I mean, one is the Military Bowl. One of our clients, it's a single destination event, fans coming from the two core markets where the teams were coming from. We sold everything from the premium hospitality to hotel packages to tours of the Naval Academy for fans that wanted to have that like type of an experience, all in one ecosystem, in one buying flow. And that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about beyond ticketing, is like, let's help that fan make that and curate that whole live entertainment experience in advance if that's what they want. Some fans want to buy just the whole lot curated experience for them, and we can offer that as well. So that's really what gets us excited is when we have clients that are thinking strategically, all right, how can I drive more value for my fan, make their experience a better one, and reducing any of the waiting in lines and the friction that you see on site, and ultimately at the end of the day, hopefully make some more money in capturing more revenue from that fan.
And also the consumer journey is so important for, if you want a loyal customer, if it's difficult to find, or if it's, as you said, like if they want to go more and buy more and get some premium package and can't find it, or it's difficult, I mean, then that hinders the whole process, right? So to have that flow.
Yeah, it's all in one system too. That's, I think, the other thing. What I mentioned earlier, this idea around bolt-on, what you see with lots of professional sports properties is they'll have one system that sells their premium. And a lot of times it's just over the phone by the back office. They'll have another system that sells their single event tickets. They'll have another system that sells their merchandise. They'll have another system potentially that's, in their application that's maybe doing pre-orders of food and beverage. And then the live event experiences are oftentimes not commercially taken advantage of because holistically the systems that exist today have not been designed to deliver those types of experiences. And so for us, it's two things. I mean, one, it's making it very simple and easy for the fan to navigate the system. Our platform is designed much more like a modern application. Think DoorDash or Netflix or Apple TV. So it's a lot of mobile first viewing experience, but it's very visual and graphic. So if you're trying to sell a $5,000, travel package with hotel, lodging, tickets to the game, you want to be able to see what that hotel room looks like. You want to be able to see what the seat looks like. You want to see what that premium hospitality space that you're getting access to looks like. And that's a big part of what's different about Tixr is like we've built this really visual, appealing, modern UX that delivers that experience for the fan.
Yeah, I think that's crucial, as we talked about, because everything to have that accessibility and have it easy to find. And when people's patience nowadays, I feel, is lower, so to have that, easy and clean.
Yeah, no, we talk a lot about conversion rates. That's a big component of the conversation that we have with a lot of our clients because, you'd be fascinated to understand how little, sports properties and live entertainment properties pay attention to conversion rates on their ticketing system. And it's a missed opportunity because ultimately, you're right. People are distracted. They have lots of options. Oftentimes they're on their mobile device watching TV or Netflix and, surfing for events to do that weekend. And you have to get them while they're in that, that excitement and that enthusiasm to actually buy that ticket. So having a system that actually converts those interested buyers into transactions is vitally important and something that we stress tremendously. And we pay attention to it on a really religious basis with all of our clients. It's the number one, point that we put in all of our materials as it relates to tracking the efficacy of the platform.
I like that. So you mentioned you gave the example of a one-off event that it was one time and you got a tour and everything. But sports, it might be just a regular game in the season or a playoff, or maybe you buy a bundle. Does this add to the complexity as well, that there are different types of, maybe between different leagues? I mean, some leagues have more games than others, and how are you working to, accommodate the different needs for different leagues, teams, and the sports?
Yeah, I mean, season ticket functionality was a big component of the core requirement for us to get into professional sports and being able to bundle multiple events in one package. We launched a partnership with the Rip City Remix, which is a brand new G League franchise in Portland that's owned by the Trailblazers. And they didn't have a ticketing department when we started with them. They had launched this property. It was being managed by a handful of Trailblazers executives, but while they were trying to, at the same time, hire on a team to manage this G League property. And so a big component of the philosophy of their leaders was, let's create a more online experience. Let's test new ways of approaching sales than the old-fashioned kind of over the phone season ticket sales methodology. And so we launched season tickets. We launched mini plan packages. So half season ticket packages. We launched group sales. We actually did their tryouts where they were selling access to trying out for the team, all online. And it was all done without any intervention between a consumer and staff. At least as a starting point. If somebody had some questions or wanted some more information, there was a way to get in touch with somebody. But I think a big part of our goal as an operating system is to create efficiencies for our partners so that their staff have more time to be strategic and come up with new ideas and new ways to engage their fans. And, holistically, what ticketing systems have done over time is created a lot of bottlenecks and a lot of really mundane tasks that like upgrading a fan from one seat to another requires manual intervention in most systems. You have to call in and say, hey, I'd love to sit courtside at this game, but I've already got my seats in the 100 level. Can I upgrade? And they can do it, but it requires somebody to talk to. We've built that functionality natively in the system. So yeah, it's those types of ideas and those types of strategic solutions are things that we're always thinking about. I think we think that season tickets are a part of the buying experience, but there's younger generation of fans that want other ways to get access to the experience that might allow them to be a member, but not necessarily have a ticket to every single game. And to giving the fan more flexibility about how that looks is a big part of where we're building the product going forward. So, younger consumers nowadays are much more accustomed to a subscription, right? So they're buying their Netflix, they're buying their Amazon, and they're paying a monthly subscription. This idea is something that we think has a lot of potential in an application in live entertainment, where you pay a subscription and it gives you either special access, discounts, benefits, that doesn't require you to actually attend every event. And what that allows for is a little bit of a disintermediation between the reliance on the secondary marketplace as a tool to deliver value back to your season ticket holders. So right now, the season ticket holders, their recourse by and large for an event that they can't go to is to try to resell the ticket. And not everybody wants to have to do that. I mean, some consumers, that's fine. They have no problem, going online and offering up their tickets. And some people can actually make money doing that. So there's a benefit to the fan in offering that as an option. But some don't. Some don't want to deal with the hassle. And what you talked about earlier is getting butts in the seats is a part of the core goal of these sports teams. That friction for the fan that doesn't care causes less people to show up on site at the event. And so creating more flexibility in how you're offering experiences to your fans is a big part of getting more butts in the seats.
That's so interesting. And as you mentioned with the subscription, that a lot of young people are accustomed to that. Maybe it sounds like that season tickets is maybe a little bit older audience that go for that option. So, again, to be flexible, offer the different types. And maybe the younger generation with the subscription don't have the same type of budget as someone who's a little bit older. So to, find a premium experience at the different price points that attracts the different age groups.
For sure. And the goal is ultimately establishing that a commercial relationship with your fans, right? And having that beyond just like somebody buying a single event ticket is less invested than maybe somebody that's paying a monthly subscription. So how can we move people from a casual fan of maybe watching the games and maybe attending one game to becoming more commercially aligned and more of in European models become more of a supporter versus just a casual fan.
So what is some strategies? Like how can you try to transition someone from who has been to one event, bought a single ticket, to go more frequently?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of really smart people that are approaching this topic. Some of it is coming up with curated packages that are smaller in scale so that they're more approachable. Some of it is flexibility, giving the fan the opportunity to potentially return a ticket if they can't use it, is something that we're definitely looking at a lot of. And so, again, I think it's also the data, right? Once you've got and can and actually own and have a relationship with that fan, that first touch point, you having that data yourself and owning it outright versus, reliant on a second party or a third party to access that data can make it so that you can personalize content and create better engagement strategies from a marketing perspective to get them to come back more regularly. And so that's a big part of what we look at as a differentiating factor. Our ethos is that the clients that operate in our system own the data themselves. We're not using it for our own benefit. In North America, the legacy ticketing providers generally have some vested interest in access to that data themselves. And we think that that's a conflict. And so we've holistically always approached this as the data as our clients. We want to empower them with access to that data in real time, because ultimately data is only as good as the action you can take against it. And having it in real time is vitally important to being able to deliver value from your marketing campaigns as well as from a sale through.
The data is only as good as the action you can take against it. I like that. I got stuck on that quote. I really liked it.
There you go.
So yeah, let's talk partnerships for a while. So I know that you have partnered with some teams in the NWSL, MLS, and also the Live Golf Tour. So can you talk a little bit about the different partnerships that you have?
Yeah. So from a partnership standpoint, our approach is twofold. One, we're a B2B SaaS company. I think for us, it's all about how we can work with them to deliver value from an operating system standpoint. That's core to who we are and what we do. From a marketing standpoint, Tixr's focus is, again, all about providing access and visibility to the fan. And so if we're going to invest in marketing resources and assets, I mentioned the Rip City Remix. A big part of that partnership was we wanted to give access to underprivileged youth in the environment around the stadium, access to the event itself. And so we donated tickets as part of our partnership with them. So again, Tixr is maybe powering that, but it's really Rip City Remix that are giving away those tickets to that underprivileged youth. And so that's a big part of and a core component of our approach to partnerships. It's like, how can our solutions provide value to our client? And then ultimately, how can we at the same time create a better fan experience and open up access as well? I think the vast majority of our time spent on establishing and developing relationships with our clients is about listening to their needs and building new features and functionality. I mean, just in the last year alone, we've had, I think, something like 55 different releases and updates to the product. They're either new product features or enhancements to our existing feature sets. And all of that has been driven by feedback that we get from our clients, feedback that we get from prospective clients. And that's a big part of how we look at partnership. And then on top of that, it's other lines of service that tie into the buying experience that we can provide value for. So we have an in-house data science team that works collaboratively with our clients on building, reports and visualizations that they can utilize to help move their business forward. We have a design team. Again, I talked about how immersive and visual our product is. So a lot of our clients need support in helping create a really bespoke experience. They might have a brand guideline and some visual examples of what they want the site to look like, but we have some experts that are really good at, the actual graphics that work well and convert at a high level. We have a client success team. Their entire job on a day-to-day basis is interacting and engaging with our clients on a one-to-one basis and helping come up with ideas, troubleshoot issues, and, again, help them with their day-to-day business operation.
Mm. So one partnership was to help launch the Portland Timbers into the MLS. Is it safe to say that you were a driver in that partnership, or considering your history?
So that's not related to Tixr.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I worked for the Timbers. I spent 8 years in Portland, 3 of them with the Major League Soccer franchise, 5 of them with the minor league Timbers. So I was a part of the journey from taking the Timbers from being a minor league soccer franchise in the USL and then launching them in 2011 into Major League Soccer. And that was, a tremendous experience. it's interesting you bring that up, because a part of what I get excited about with working at Tixr is related to the journey that I took with the Timbers. Launching a brand new franchise, it's a very entrepreneurial venture. We didn't have a playbook. We were able to build our own playbook, even though we had a minor league team. This was brand new, and we had a lot of leeway to kind of commercially deliver a better experience than what we thought was out in the marketplace. And so the same kind of learnings and excitement and enthusiasm for building that franchise has been a big reason why I jumped at this opportunity with Tixr. Is I get to be very hands-on in developing the strategies, coming up with new approaches, building a better product, and then working collaboratively with my clients to enhance their overall business. And that's what's exciting to me. I've worked for big operations. I've worked for small minor league sports franchises, and I learned a lot over those times. And I think what gets me most excited is building something. And this is a big part of what I'm doing at Tixr, is helping build the future of our business in the sports space.
It sounds like you have a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit, although it's not necessarily a startup per se.
Yeah, I mean, the company's 11 years old, so my risk profile isn't high enough, I think, to be an actual founder of a startup, but I get to be a kind of an entrepreneur inside of an organization that's got structure and profitability and has established itself. So I had the benefit of not having the same risk that the co-founders took when they started Tixr 11 years ago. But 2.5 years ago, being able to launch us into a new space. I mean, we're doing a lot of this right now in our business. We launched our London office, just announced that just recently, but it's been up and operational for about a year now. Within a year, that business unit was profitable, and that's a big part of what's exciting about what we're building at Tixr, because our ethos is very entrepreneurial. Our founders are very entrepreneurial, and they empower us to try things, and they're not afraid of us going after and doing something and not succeeding right away, because we know over time we'll either pivot or we'll figure it out and get market share.
So we talked about data before. So I mean, it's calculated risks, right? They are seeing maybe a potential in the sports market, obviously, and then in early 2022 you took that leap. So it's following the numbers and the data and see where it's hot also, as in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously the sports business is a massive commercial business. I think one of the things that drove the decision wasn't necessarily the market opportunity. It was more the conversations we were having with sports properties and the frustration that we heard from the marketplace, that they couldn't do everything that they wanted to do, and that there was an opportunity to solve problems or challenges. And that's where Tixr shines, is like ultimately is sitting down across from a client, hearing what their goals are and what the challenges are that they deal with on a day-to-day basis, and coming up with solutions that actually deliver value and make their jobs easier, candidly.
So we mentioned that you worked for Portland Timbers for a couple of years. So obviously now you work with teams. So How much of your experience from being on that side is now beneficial to you, so you can walk a mile in their shoes, so to speak?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I was, most of my career was spent on the partnership side. And I think that that's helped me in the transition to working for a solutions provider to teams, because on the partnership side, you're working collaboratively with all the different departments inside of an organization. So I would work with our ticketing department on coming up with strategic promotions that our brand partners wanted to align with, that was providing value to the fans, and then ultimately we could market into the marketplace. I was working collaboratively with marketing department on, again, highlighting and showcasing our brand partners and making sure that they're getting the value that they paid for, and showcasing their product to our fans. I worked with the operations department. So I had a really well-rounded, viewpoint into how a business in the sports world operates. And I think that's what really helps in this opportunity, because holistically, historically, sports properties have been very siloed. Each individual business unit inside of the company is kind of focused on their day-to-day task. Being in a sports team, especially on a season basis, can be a little bit of a hamster wheel where you're just going from game to game to game and rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. There's not a lot of like opportunity for strategic decisions outside of the off season. And so, holistically, we're trying to insert ourselves into opportunities where we can provide value. What we're seeing though in the sports world is a much more sophisticated operator going forward. There's strategy departments now with a lot of sports teams, and those people aren't in a hamster wheel moment. They're actually thinking. They're able to sit back and look at the business in total, and with that, they can start to think about how to better design the product going forward, how to better create a better fan experience. You heard, I'm sure there's news, at least in the US, about the NFL taking on private equity with, more and more private equity and those types of investments coming into sports properties. It's going to push teams to be better operators and to find value for those investors in a much more sophisticated manner than historically they've been. I talk a lot about this in my 20 years working for sports teams. A lot of the job was risk management. We'll outsource our concessions, we'll outsource our merchandise, we'll bring in a third-party ticketing platform that's effectively selling our tickets, we'll outsource our media. What you're seeing now is there's breaks in that old structure, even in the content delivery space. With the video content now, there's some teams that are now going direct to consumer, which 10 years ago when I worked for the Timbers and Kroenke Sports was not going to happen. You're making so much money from your rights from your television provider that you wouldn't ever think about going direct to consumer. But that's, I think, the future. And we think that sports is much more of a platform business that goes beyond even just a live event. The entertainment districts that a lot of these owners have built around their facilities, we think that they need an operating system that can power that entire experience beyond just the four walls of the stadium. And we want to build that solution for them going forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. And I mean, the sports industry has increased a lot. And as you said, like now the teams are almost like corporations with different departments and strategy and everything. So obviously, like the platform that you guys have built and to make that easier for them is, of course, of the highest value.
Yeah, I mean, it's about creating efficiencies and automations. I think AI is a big talking point right now in the sports world. So we actually deployed our first AI product. We have stuff in our background, in our back end that we can do with our data science team. But in the front end, we actually deployed a solution that allows our clients to create event descriptions in an AI tool to help with SEO purposes and other things and effectively make more efficient use of their time. And that's a big part of what we think the future is going to hold is creating more efficiencies and unlocking your human resources to deliver more value back to the company outside of just mundane tasks and data entry.
So you think that the entrance of AI will be more to you shift tasks? You don't think necessarily that will like take over a lot of jobs? When you said it now, it sounded more like you said like these boring tasks that are like just, entering data and so forth, that will be AI. And then you can spend your time on like more important stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different use cases. I don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into saying that it's not going to replace some potential human capital. But I think holistically, in the early days, we see it as mostly efficiency. I think long term, what you're going to see is more personalization. But with that requires people to monitor and make sure it's delivering the right experience, because ultimately you have a brand that fans love. It's different than selling a widget, and you have to hold very true to that brand ethos and make sure that AI isn't creating that brand experience. You have to own it yourself. So I think most of what we talk about is how we can help create efficiencies and unlock opportunities to access the data, to visualize the data, understand the data better, and then ultimately also provide more opportunity for the end user to spend their time more strategically.
That's interesting. Yeah, getting to know you a little bit better. We have talked, of course, about the professional side, but What's your background in regards to sports? Have you been playing sports, study sports? What's your connection?
Yeah, I'm a little older than when the sports management programs existed. So I got into this business the old-fashioned way. I played college sport here in the U.S., but I was never talented enough to play beyond that. And so when I got out of university, I basically took a job in finance, thinking that was going to be something that was passionate about. And I realized that I missed being involved in sports, and so I took a leap of faith, jumped into a minor league baseball operation, spent about 8 years in minor league sports, and then launched the Timbers into Major League Soccer. From there, went to the Kroenke Group and got into the Nuggets and the Avalanche in Major League Sports, and then left that to start and work on a project with Oakview Group, which it opened up my eyes to the business around the sport, because we didn't own teams. We were focused around the facilities and the venues that sports and live entertainment was housed in. So it really gave me a really well-versed experience, but definitely did not take the newer approach where you're going to school and learning. I learned on the job for the most part.
And that's why I'm taking this interest in the guests that I'm bringing on to ask their journey, because I think it's important for the listeners to know that there are several ways into the industry. Because as you said, like the traditional path now, maybe they think that you need to study sports management, you need to make X amount of internships, and then you should apply for maybe an agency, do different things. But it's like, I don't think there is two people out of the 160 something that I've talked to so far that had a similar journey. Like everyone has gone their path and then ended up in the sports industry one way or another.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities in sport that go beyond just working for a team. I think the thing that I talk to a lot of young people about is, don't worry yourself so much with the logo. Focus more on the people and the opportunity to learn. I mean, that's really where I got the most value, is the people that I worked with and the opportunity to be challenged to try new things. And with those things, you're gonna have success if you're devoted and committed to that and passionate.
Yeah, so I like to ask about if you have any advice for young people, and that was one. But anything else that comes to mind that is good for someone who's young and eager to enter the sports industry?
Yeah, I think raising your hand when opportunities arise is really important. If you want to learn something different than what your job is, say you get a job working in ticket sales, which is a lot of people's entry point into the sports world, but you're interested in marketing or sponsorship, take time to talk to those people in that department, even if it's outside of the normal workday, and see if there's ways that you can provide value to them in your day to day. That's always something that I think a lot of is, if you think in your mind, hey, I want to get into partnerships, but my entry point is selling tickets. Well, the people you're selling tickets to oftentimes own businesses or have worked for a business and can, help you get into an opportunity where you bring your partnerships team in, and it gives you an opportunity to learn something new. So I think that's core. I definitely think relationships are the most important part of having a successful career. So I always stress the importance of, finding good people and staying close to them. And yeah, I mean, that's really where I've seen the most success. So those two things I'd say is be eager learner, try new things, and then find good people and establish and maintain those relationships.
I love that. You mentioned before you've been 20 plus years now in the industry. But has there been any bumps on the road in your career? And if so, how did you overcome them?
Definitely. The first 3 years in Portland, we had 3 different owners. And so it was a very up and down experience. I think holistically, when there's challenges that are external to what you're working on, it's focusing on what you can control is really important. And then also, I candidly had a moment in time where I took on too much responsibility, and I was at a point in my life where I needed to reboot and reset. And, I think it's important to know that if there is a challenge or an issue, or a problem that comes up in your journey, it doesn't mean your journey's over. It's just it's something that you can overcome and move on from. And I've definitely dealt with my fair share of setbacks over the years, continue to move forward every day. And that's really how I've been able to sustain this career.
Approaching the end here, I'd like to end with a networking question. So who from your network do you think would be a good guest on this podcast?
Two people come to mind. One being a guy named Ryan Brock, who was kind of a mentor of mine. He works for the Oakview Group. He's got a really established and exciting job there, where he's working on a lot of their owned and operated facilities here in North America on a partnership standpoint. And then Krista Stout, who's the chief strategy and technology kind of officer for the Portland Trailblazers. I worked with her when I was in Portland, and then I've had the fortune of working with her a little bit on the Rip City Remix launch. She's looking at technology and new approaches in a way that I think could be really interesting for a lot of young people, especially.
Definitely. Two great suggestions there. Nate, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Sports Management Podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and appreciate you letting me be on here.
Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.